Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today's battle continues yesterday's best of 3 series from the ESL 1v1 tournament season 2, in which Ondjage takes his Wood Elves to fight Danko's Empire. At this point, the series was at 1-0 for Ondjage. The Wood Elves are led by a Glade Lord flying atop a Forest Dragon, carrying a potion of toughness, armed with the arrow of Kurnos and the prey of Anathrema. A Spellslinger of Shadows comes in on horseback with smoke and mirrors to provide extra speed to all allies, Melkot's mystifying miasma, and the enfeebling foe. A unit of Eternal Guard and 3 units of Eternal Guard with shields create your standard Wood Elf infantry contingent, able to hold ground to protect ranged units and to shrug off ranged fire for the most part. 3 units of Deepwood Scouts provide great range support with the ability to kite the enemy quite well, and 2 units of Way Watchers add a strong armor-piercing capability to the ranged contingent. Finally, 3 units of Wild Riders, 1 ranked up to rank 1, can be used to screen the battlefield, protecting ranged units from incoming enemy cavalry and shutting down enemy infantry as well. The Empire comes in with an Arc Lector on horseback in charge, carrying the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, giving himself and allies nearby a massive boost of 34 to melee attack, and the Grand Shield of Faith, giving himself and allies nearby a plus 22% damage resistance. A Jade Wizard accompanies him with Life Bloom and Earthblood, as well as Arcane Conduit. 4 units of Flagellants, 2 ranked up to rank 1, and Sigmar's Sons provide an unbreakable infantry contingent, while the 2 units of Free Company Militia, 2 units of Crossbowmen, and 1 unit of Handgunners bring a varied set of ranged capabilities to the Empire. I think the plan with the Flagellants, Sigmar's Sons, and Free Company Militia was to try and engage and lock down enemy units, allowing the 2 units of Knights of the Blazing Sun to come charging in freely. Finally, a steam tank rolls in with the Empire army that can cause significant damage from range and in melee until it's destroyed, as it is unbreakable. I really think the Empire was expecting a slow, lumbering tree army, and that pun is 100% intentional. They're going to be severely disappointed, however, when they arrive on the battlefield. Alright, with the conversation for deployment here, we do have to keep it paused because some crazy things start happening instantaneously. So we are going to keep it paused while we talk about deployment, which is, as you can see, pretty unique from the Wood Elves and interesting as well from the Empire. Let's start with the Wood Elves, though. You'll see there aren't really any lines to break them into, so we'll try and break them into their parts. We've got the Deepwood Scouts up ahead alongside the Way Watchers as well, getting some early scouting information in, also able to start the kiting nice and early. If the Empire decides to charge down the field, they're able to pull back and open shots off nice and early, taking advantage of that Vanguard deployment. We also have the Glade Lord sort of in the middle here, up in the air, able to provide support if necessary, if any cavalry comes charging in nice and early, able to go in and intercept while these guys creep away into safety. And all the way back here we have the Spellslinger of Shadows, as well as Eternal Guards with shields, and the Wild Riders tucked away in the woods, staying hidden, able to, dive in and provide support if it comes to it. If these guys pull back, these guys can come in and intercept any incoming enemy units. So interesting things going on over there. And then to add to that, we've got in the woods all the way tucked away back here, we've got the Eternal Guard as well as the Wild Riders hidden, of course, in the trees. And then all the way on the other side of the field, once again, we've got Eternal Guard, these ones with shields, as well as another unit of Wild Riders tucked away in the trees. And I think the idea was, well, there might be a couple of ideas going on here. One, this positioning allows some good scouting to go off nice and early, getting some vision, making sure the Empire isn't up to anything cheeky or clever. Great call. Apart from that, I think it allows for some decent flanking opportunities, allows these guys to sort of creep up through the trees and get in from the rear if the Empire does give chase. So overall, very wide flanking maneuvers, but very interesting, very unexpected. It can come as a surprise to the enemy. That's the Wood Elves. The Empire, again, also tries something a little cheeky here. We've got the Free Company Militia Vanguard deployed all the way up front. Extremely risky play. The Free Company Militia here are very fortunate that it's actually 3 units of, 3 range units over here, as opposed to, say, some Wild Riders that would just run them down instantaneously. So that's a very risky play. In fact, if you're going to take that risk, I don't advise it. I'd suggest it's much better to deploy them, in some safety. But if you're going to take that risk, they should have been deployed on this side over here, just to grant some vision. Over here, their views are still blocked in some parts of the map, so it would have been a good idea to put them over here and get clear vision of whatever might be coming on this side of the field. Now, the rest of the Empire army is a bit more standard in its deployment. We've got your front line unbreakable with flagellants as well as Sigmar's sons. Right behind them, we've got the crossbowmen and the handgunners, a little closely packed for my liking. And then we've got the Arc Lector behind them. A lot of these guys are hidden in these trees, of course, and the terrain is probably hiding a few of them as well. Quite a few of them, as you can see in the minimap. On either flank, we have the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And they're able to, of course, protect the flanks, respond to anything that might be coming in, and they're also able to go in on flanking maneuvers of their own, of course. And then finally, all the way at the back here, we have the Jade Wizard. Maybe a little bit too far back, but hidden because of terrain. It is good to keep an ace up your sleeve, basically, but this guy might be just a little bit too far back, and I did forget to mention the Steam Tank up front here, hungry for some blood, looking to get into action as soon as possible. So, with all that said, let's dive into the battle, and you'll see these guys are definitely firing at will. Some early shots go off. The Free Company Militia do a decent amount of damage to the Deepwood Scouts before they get pulled back, because you'll see the response is in kind. These guys open some shots off and a decent amount of damage falling onto the Free Company Militia as well. Again, very risky play putting them that far ahead, because if it was a unit of Wild Riders, they would more or less already be dead with a decent charge. And you'll see the Glade Lord here decides to go and give chase, try and shut them down nice and early, but as this unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun come charging down the field, deciding against it and pulling around and back, definitely a good call. You don't want to get caught out early. The Free Company Militia have already taken a fair amount of damage. Better to get out there and not lose your leadership nice and early. But you'll see, unfortunately, the Glade Lord is now, of course, in range, so takes a couple of hits, but is ultimately able to get the hell out of there. And you'll see the Empire is now pushing down as the Wood Elves are sort of pulling away, trying to engage the various parts of the Empire. Now, it is a relatively slow start to this battle, I have to say, but the beginning is extremely important to the outcome, of course. Now, as the Glade Lord here flies across, the Steam Tank gets a shot in and does a decent amount of damage, a lot of hurt, poor dragon there, and is now creeping across the field, trying to get to this side over here, maybe cause some damage to the Free Company Militia. I think with the vision that the Wood Elves have, they know that the Free Company Militia are unprotected, so they're all sort of pushing in to respond to that opportunity. Meanwhile, over here, I'm not sure what the intent was. I think, actually no. I was going to say it's possible the Free Company Militia were hidden, and that's why the Spellsinger of Shadows was sent in to get some vision, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So this may have actually been a misclick, but the Spellsinger of Shadows does go up. It may have been to prevent some scouting over here, but I'm not entirely sure what the call was there. And you will see this unit of Waywatchers does drop a couple of shots into the Free Company Militia, again, just trying to get some damage in. Meanwhile, these Deepwood Scouts over here opening some shots into these flagellants. Again, they're a good target, they're unbreakable, so you want to try and hurt them nice and early. And the Glade Lord, meanwhile, is flying right over top of this unit of Free Company Militia, taking a decent amount of hurt, especially to morale as it flies in. And you'll see the Glade Lord does decide to dive in on them. It just turns around as it flies over top, dives in, and then probably notices this unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in and decides to disengage and get out of there, take back to the air. And at the same time, you'll see the Free Company Militia still under fire, and a little bit of Earth Blood going in there just to help them heal. Good call there. You want to try and keep these guys alive while they're still, mostly alive. There's no bringing things back from the dead, obviously, with the lore of life. And this unit of Free Company Militia now being shut up by these units of Deepwood Scouts, just trying to shut them down, shut down the range support that they might have. But it's very important to be conservative with ammunition, of course, when you are using Deepwood Scouts and Waywatchers. They can run out of ammo pretty quickly, and you need to make sure you're able to conserve it when necessary. And you'll see the Steam Tank is now creeping up, giving chase to the Glade Lord, but the Glade Lord is very far away, and you'll see something very unfortunate happens here. It actually gets caught up in the trees, and that's really a bad position to be firing from, because there are a lot of obstacles in the way that'll take the damage instead. And yes, you are fighting the Wood Elves, but these aren't the trees you're supposed to be fighting. I mean, these aren't the trees you're looking for. So unfortunately, the Steam Tank is in a bit of a rough spot there, not able to be used efficiently. And you'll see over here, the Waywatchers continue to sort of give chase in this center location over here, shutting down enemy units one at a time. Very good use of ranged units, very good use of sort of singling out the enemy and taking it apart piecemeal. And you'll see over here as well, the Deepwood Scouts just getting a couple of shots off into these crossbowmen, just taking care of any ranged capabilities that the Empire has on the table. And again, you'll see the Steam Tank sort of just in the trees there. One of its shots early on just disappeared into the cliffs, or into the little hill over here, I guess. Very inefficient. And now finally you'll see on the left side over here, these guys have finally pushed out of their hiding spot. The Wild Riders, of course, being fast as they are getting to their end destination a lot sooner than these guys who are pushing into the trees over here. Meanwhile, the Spellslinger of Shadows has crept over here to get into a good hiding space. Again, with your casters, you want to try and keep them hidden and safe, because if they get shut down early on in the battle, they've become a large waste of points, and it can be quite a few points, of course. So you'll see these guys are still stationary back here. The Glade Lord is still being very careful of sort of approaching the front lines. These guys are pulling back, and meanwhile these guys are finally pushing up on this side, forcing the Empire to act. And you'll see again a couple of shots from these crossbowmen now trying to get some damage in, but really the Empire should have pushed in with a lot more force, because when it comes to a ranged battle, the Wood Elves are going to take the day. They're going to have better range, they're going to cause more damage, and they're actually able to focus down. Look at this unit of crossbowmen over here. You'll see they take a lot of damage instantaneously. And up here, as these Wild Riders are sort of coming in, you'll see the Knights of the Blazing Sun go in to respond. And meanwhile, over here, this unit of Free Company Militia are targeted by Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, causing a decent amount of damage. And in response, the Empire does cast Earthblood, trying to bring them back to full health. So a little bit of counter magic going on. And in the meanwhile, this unit of crossbowmen, as I mentioned, entirely taken care of with ranged fire. The Empire simply did not respond by pulling back, didn't respond by, charging in and forcing these guys to retreat. And that was the demise of these crossbowmen. They're simply not going home to their families, unfortunately. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see this unit of Eternal Guard is now being sent up here to try and protect these Wild Riders from enemy large units. Good call. They're making sure they sort of stick together to try and keep these Wild Riders safe, because they are an important unit in this kind of a situation. So just trying to get these guys together. And now the Glade Lord again over here, just pushing forward slightly. And these guys still tucked away back here. These crossbowmen, meanwhile, fully retreating, and the steam tank finally gets a little bit of damage in because it's no longer shooting into these trees, killing a couple of these Deepwood scouts here. And now you'll see the Way Watchers are shooting down on the steam tank, and that's a great call. These guys fire armor-piercing missiles, and the steam tank, of course, is unbreakable and needs to be shut down with either ranged fire or melee. Either way, armor-piercing is going to do a great amount of work there, and you'll see these Deepwood Scouts being pulled this way instead, again, just to take care of the Empire army in piecemeal, and they're not really helpful against anything else that's left over here, so they're pulled away here, and you'll see opening shots off and now targeting these crossbowmen, trying to take them down as quickly as possible. So great use of the Deepwood Scouts there. And you'll see up here as well these Wild Riders tucked away behind these Eternal Guard. The Eternal Guard are hidden in the trees here, maybe hoping that the Empire player will forget the layout over there, and these guys, you'll see they do decide to push in. And as they push in, you'll see a decent amount of micro going on here as these guys off in the distance trade shots, going back and forth, trying to shut down each other's ranged contingents. You'll see that the Eternal Guard here are spotted, and so the Knights of the Blazing Sun and the Flagellants, as they're going in, the Knights of the Blazing Sun decide to peel away. Obviously, they don't want to be engaged by spearmen, and as the Flagellants are being sent in to bog down the Eternal Guard actually pull back, and the Knights of the Blazing Sun, again, pulled off to the side here, hoping maybe to charge into the Wild Rider. So, great use of magic there, and you'll see Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma here slowing down the Flagellants. So, great use of magic there, while also causing magical damage. So, great use there, and then again, retreating fully into safety. Meanwhile, all the way over here now, still trading shots off. You'll see this unit of Free Company Militia taking care of Earthblood, trying to keep them alive, and this unit of crossbowmen as well, just taking a significant amount of damage. And the Empire, again, just not charging down the field, not doing anything to actually shut down the enemy. And so piece by piece are being taken care of, and you'll see the Glade Lord now dives into the crossbowmen, basically to call it a day for them. Unfortunately, the Free Company Militia are able to open some shots off, and before the Knights of the Blazing Sun are able to respond, a wonderful Prey of Anathrema goes down just to make sure they're not able to dive in and provide any support as these Wild Riders come in through the trees, finally responding and finally getting involved, shutting down this unit of Free Company Militia. So great display of patience there, keeping them back there until absolutely necessary. Great use of micromanagement over here by both players, I have to be honest. Knights of the Blazing Sun being used to try and avoid the Eternal Guard, and then pulling back, using magic to slow down the Flagellants, and ultimately, creeping back into a decent amount of safety. Meanwhile, on this side of the battlefield over here, you'll see the Glade Lord is having a great time shutting down this unit of crossbowmen as these Wild Riders shut down these Free Company Militia. And the Knights of the Blazing Sun still under the influence of the Prey of Anathrema, so they're still stuck in there. So great use of magic from both players, I have to say. And again, these guys have been largely taken care of, and these guys can just get out of there into some safety as these Flagellants come charging in. And you'll see again, off on this side over here, these guys have all tucked away into some safety, and now these guys are again, opening fire to the next target. It looks like the handgunners are the next target here. Meanwhile, the Wild Riders as well go chasing in, and the steam tank now will have a good opportunity to get some shots in, but you'll see not before the Wild Riders are able to dive in there and do a decent amount of damage to the handgunners and scare them right off. Of course, the Arc Lecter does dive in there as well, and Earthblood is trying to keep these guys alive. Sigmar's Sons as well now trying to hold these guys in place as the steam tank opens fire. You'll see the Wild Riders actually took a decent amount of damage there, so that was unfortunate for the Wild Riders, but ultimately they are able to get out into some safety. And over here now you'll see the entire contingent that was sent giving chase over here now being pulled back, so a lot of, you know, running back and forth going on over there. This can tire your units out, but these guys are now coming back. It would have actually maybe been a better idea to continue that flanking maneuver. It was quite the opportunity actually, because these guys could have been, you know, held in place. The Flagellants could have held these guys in place, and those Knights of the Blazing Sun could have come around the rear and shut down some of this ranged unit. So that was actually a great opportunity that has been completely misused. These guys have pulled back instead of pushed forward, maybe a little too cautious, maybe a little too afraid of the consequences, but it's really unfortunate, especially since we saw some nice early risks from the Empire. It's unfortunate that that risky behavior didn't sort of stick around here, because capitalizing on that opportunity would have made a huge difference at this point. And now you'll see the Way Watchers open fire at the steam tank again and again. They have armor-piercing missiles, so the steam tank is going to take a fair amount of damage. In the center over here, again, you'll see Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, as well as the Enfeebling Foe going down, making sure that the Wood Elves have a better time here, and the Knights of the Blazing Sun just instantaneously shut down. Nothing's going to keep them around. Grand Shield of Faith and Grand Hammer of Sigmar does come down to try and bring them back into some fighting capability, but it is absolutely, well, it's the end times for these guys. They are on their way out, and meanwhile you'll see the ranged units now continue to open fire at various targets, shooting down some of these handgunners, trying to get them to leave the field, and meanwhile this unit of Free Company Militia and Crossbowmen trying to stay involved, but these guys over here, the Eternal Guard, punching in there, trying to cut them off as well. Meanwhile, everyone is sort of pushing in now from the Wood Elves, trying to call it a day for the battle. You'll see the Wild Riders also giving chase, trying to shut down these units, stop them from returning to the field later on. Good call. This unit, unfortunately, has been largely left unpunished, and you'll see an Arrow of Kronos goes towards the steam tank, and the steam tank as well now, just getting some shots off, getting some kills in finally. And ultimately, the Glade Lord, as you saw, is now being sent in to tackle the steam tank. The Glade Lord does have armor piercing in its melee attack, so that is a great call. But as it flies over, it does take some hurt from this Free Company Militia unit. But just in a minute, you'll see the Wild Riders come flying in and deal with them, completely shatter them instantaneously. And now these Flagellants are pulling back while they are taking shots as well from these ranged units. So these guys are very quickly going to be taken care of as they retreat into the trees here to protect them from some of that ranged fire. And you'll see over here the Knights of the Blazing Sun, I think it was, very quickly taken care of. Over here, these guys as well, very quickly taken care of, and the Glade Lord now going toe-to-toe with the steam tank, taking a decent amount of hurt, now taking to the air, and trying to pull away into some safety while these Wild Riders are shutting down the Jade Wizard. So a lot of chaos unfolding on the battlefield, and again, these guys sort of pulling back. They do still have a little bit of ammunition left, so might as well use them in range, and you'll see the Way Watchers still have a fair amount of ammo left. Better to keep that safe for the steam tank, I would say, and you'll see this unit of Flagellants just poking out of the trees there and taking a lot of damage, a lot of ranged fire, doing a lot of work. And finally, ammo used up by some of these units, and they now do need to dive into melee, though largely the enemy army has been taken care of, so they might actually be safe from melee. Over here, you'll see the Grand Shield of Faith trying to keep these guys alive. Unfortunately, these Wild Riders will now have a terrible, well, rest of the day. They are being taken care of pretty handily by the Arc Lecter back there, and the steam tank continues to open fire, trying to get a few more kills in. It would have been a good idea possibly to send the Glade Lord in there. It is pretty risky because the steam tank can cause a lot of damage, but instead the Glade Lord does dive in with a rear charge into these guys. Not a bad call whatsoever, trying to get some hurt in, trying to take care of this because these guys are all unbreakable units, so you want to try and win this flank, I suppose we could call it that, and then able to, be able to push in with the entire strength of your army. The Arc Lecter diving in to respond now, and again, just a little far too little, far too late. The Arc Lecter could have been much more helpful up front, using the Grand Shield of Faith and the Grand Hammer of Sigmar to help the front lines. Again, if the Empire had just pushed down, they could have shut down the Wood Elf range contingents nice and early. So just a little too cautious there. And now diving into combat, the Glade Lord and the Arc Lecter, in sort of pitched battle, I suppose. But the Glade Lord, of course, able to just tuck away and take to the air. Some of these ranged units now opening fire at the Arc Lecter, trying to cause some hurt. Prey of Anathrema does go down, holding him in place, so great move there, reducing his missile resistance, and then that focus fire comes in just to cause a lot of damage. to health, as well as maybe more importantly to morale. So good use there, and now the Glade Lord decides once again to go after the steam tank to shut it down once and for all. And you'll see over here that Spellsinger of Shadows is caught in combat against the Free Company Militia. Not the safest call, but it does keep them unable to open fire, and now the Wild Riders come in to cap them off once and for all, and now really the Arc Lector is in there trying to help this melee situation here, and ultimately deciding to go after some of these ranged units. Good call. You need to shut down ranged units. They are very dangerous, as you've seen throughout the course of this battle. So now finally diving in there to try and shut them down. And back here you'll see the Jade Wizard being sort of focused on by these 2 units of Wild Riders, trying to keep them shut down. And over here the steam tank finally explodes under the force of the Glade Lord. Great job there shutting them down. And now very quickly just sort of encircling this melee situation here, the Wild Riders were able to come in from the rear, try and shut down some of these flagellants. Again, they'll fight to the death, but the Wood Elves are trying to bring that death nice and early. The Jade Wizard, meanwhile, now being focused on by the Glade Lord as well. Again, starting to rout over here, and over here the Arc Lector not really doing much. Just, I feel like at this point the Empire has already given up with the way they're acting, but you will see the Eternal Guard here are routing. There is still something of a chance. Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma does go down on Sigmar's Sons, causing some damage. Again, they are unbreakable, so that is a great call. And again, that full surround, more or less, causing a decent amount of damage, and if morale was in play, this battle would already be over. And you'll see over here, again, the Enfeebling Foe goes down on the Arc Lector. Great call, basically reducing his attack capabilities, making sure he's not able to get any damage out, and he's taking a lot of damage at the same time. And there you have it, a shatter. The Arc Lector is on his way out. So much for that Shield of Faith. All that's left are the Sigmar Sons and the Flagellants. Everything else is shattered, and this really is really when you cut your losses and call GG, because the Wood Elves have taken the field and they've taken the day very quickly, sort of piece by piece, destroying the Empire army and ensuring a Pyrrhic victory for the Wood Elves. Almost as a counterpoint to the previous battle from yesterday, this one shows how damaging too much patience can be. One must know when to strike down the enemy, and unfortunately the Empire stood back for far too long. Battlefield awareness also made a huge difference in this engagement, as the steam tank stood largely useless for a large part of this battle, shooting into trees and a hill instead of the enemy. It's very important to look at what your units are up to, especially when you have the opportunity at the beginning of a battle, and just make sure that they're being used efficiently, because that's what being a great general is about. As always, guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, and keep sending in those battle replays. I think it's a wonderful way to learn from other generals, and it's also great to just showcase great battles from the community. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.